Wiggle a lightsaber in front of my face and I'll be just as hooked as a teenager watching an mighty asshole video featuring Subway Surfer and Family Guy funny moment number 648. So you can imagine how psyched I was when Respawn Entertainment, developers of possibly my favorite FPS ever, Titanfall 2, dropped Jedi Fallen Order back in 2019. Releasing right before Rise of Skywalker, it truly felt like getting a gentle kiss before getting sprayed in liquid diarrhea. Yeah, the game was sort of this love child of a nasty fucking gangbang of every single AAA game you can imagine. But that's why I loved it. This disgusting little child that was Jedi Fallen Order, as flawed as it was fun to me. Did it look like Cal needed his diapers changed for the whole runtime of the game? Absolutely. Were the only cosmetics in the form of ponchos to save you from the liquid diarrhea? Yes. But yet it felt so loving. It felt like they put so much of their heart into it, and that's why I loved it. It came out in a time where Disney pretended the prequels didn't exist, and they were like, fuck all that, baby. Order 66. Let's see these fucking Jedis die one more time. Run it back, baby. So what about Survivor? Is it even greater than Jedi Fallen Order? Does Cal still have a massive case of diarrhea? I mean, it builds on all of the elements and improves every single one of them. But oddly, some of these improvements led to a much more inconsistent experience. Oh, and he does run normal now. Well, that is if you don't control him like an ADHD-ridden child. How some of the ideas in this game feel so obvious for Star Wars, yet no one's had done it before. The moments where you can only use your lightsaber to illuminate the darkness, giving you slight hints of a horror game for like 5 seconds, but still it's creepy. People using the Force to swing their lightsaber. It's all so obvious and yet so fucking perfect. But those are just sparks of brilliance in a long stretch of, dare I say, mediocrity. It's all so close to being amazing and then they don't do anything. Take this scene for example, where you walk into these High Republic living spaces and you start hearing the Force team. You see visions of turmoil and distress and can only imagine what could have been. But it's really just background dressing. How the story of the game really feels quite unremarkable. The pace of the story makes it hard to be invested in what is actually happening. For the first 12 hours or so, the game sends you after the same MacGuffin over and over again, and every time you find it, someone just shoved it up their asshole, and oops, it's broken now. Hope the next one is fine and not so fucking stinky. And even fighting the MacGuffin feels like really weak motivation and felt quite unsatisfying to follow. Survivor picks up a couple years after the first game, and the band has now split up, with Cal trying to bring down the oppressive system only to find out that, well, actually, destroying an empire ruled by trillions of people isn't all that easy. So his new crew, who all seem super dope, and he's been ride or die with them for a minute now, and they're completely dedicated to the cause. They just fucking die immediately. And so the slow and steady roll of the story begins. You get to reunite with each of the previous cast members again, and they all rock brand new haircuts, baby. Some hairs are more cut than others. You also get introduced to a bunch of new side characters who for the most part are actually really fun. Especially Turgle, my beloved. Man's built like he shoved an Xbox fridge down his throat. Hell, Monk and Scuba are really fun too. Did I skip 99% of Scuba's stories? Yeah, obviously. But they really just kind of stand around the bar, which you help bring back to life. It just feels like something you have no direct control over besides just playing the game. There's no investing currencies into direct upgrades or anything. You can't like pick, oh, I want this color for the walls. I want him to serve these drinks. There's none of that. It's more so Turgle eating the furniture in front of the doors and thus opening up a new area that at best offers a little mini game to play. It's kind of like every time you come back from work, someone puts like a Turgle Funko in a jar on your desk and also turn your closet into a door that leads to another dimension. Come on, man. At least let me install the fucking door. Okay, what happens after the magical, glorious 12-hour mark that I've mentioned earlier? 3 words. Big fucking drill, baby. Oh, and also air dash. It's mainly just air dash. Fuck, the game felt like 80% better just having the new method of movement in there. Made me feel like I'm back in Warframe doing bullet jumps. And you can also get to fly around, which honestly is a dope set piece. Shit is flying around, including you, obviously. Fucking explosions. Russian wife gives you a little peck for the road. You do a Kamehameha together. It's pretty great, even though you don't control the flying, which did feel like they put guardrails on your experience. Thinking my stupid dumb baby gamer brain couldn't figure out how to get to the next wall to rise. They may be right to do so, but I would like to have the illusion of control here. I'll let it slide though, because that set piece was the first time I truly genuinely felt like excited playing the game, and they really kicked the story into gear at that point too. Not like the narrative at all. That's still a little weak to me, but the set pieces and character moments. Your butt buddy Broad over here coming in clutch multiple times and honestly making Cal double think this whole witch thing, cause damn boy, he thick. Betrays you, and you and I did not see it coming. How you get to ride the sick ass speeder bike, which I was like trying to mount literally 5 minutes before I actually got to ride it, and holy fucking shit, bro, this is it, bro. He fucking wrecks you. I mean, totally pounds your ass. It definitely wasn't just me getting destroyed. So Cal fucking dies here. You wake up as fucking Seer. Yeah, bald fucking Jedi. You are her now. You do the wrecking because the Empire came knocking, looking for their DoorDash order, even though clearly it's yours. And what are you doing in my house, dude? You don't even live in this fucking planet. Why would he deliver your food to me? Anyway, you kill them all until Darth motherfucking Vader appears. And I sadly did not film my reaction, but I genuinely soy face. So you face him, and this time you're baby Cal, okay? You are a bald fucking baldy, here to fucking destroy little Annie boy. Are you an angel? He asks as you whoop his ass back to Mustafa and back. But of course you can't actually beat Vader. I mean, he fucking kills Hitler at the end. You can't kill the hero. So Seer dies and you switch once again and play as fucking Grease Money, baby. Does it, baby? I wish. Sadly, Cal is actually fine. He walked it off, alright? He waited for Seer to die so he can steal her lightsaber parts and make his little cosmetic lightsaber. So grief-stricken, you chase down both to an Imperial base, and generally these parts are when the game shines. Whenever you get to fight through an Imperial or Separatist base, the quality just so clearly goes up. Not like literally. I think I'm counting more pixels. The performance is just so much more bearable, so are the visuals, but even besides those, the more linear approach to level design just seems to work so much better for these games. Honestly, one of the reasons why the game doesn't stick to landing for me is because all the plans kind of feel empty. Both Jedi and Kobo, while being much bigger than anything in the previous game, don't have a lot of areas that truly offer a lot of interesting gameplay scenarios. There are exceptions such as this undercover bunker filled with traps that truly feels like a joy exploring, even going as far as to offer some new mechanics that aren't even used in the main game. But a lot of the open world activity is just looking around for a way to get up to some cosmetic, which there are a lot of, and they are quite fun to mess around with. But the game clearly could have used more dungeon-esque optional areas that offer new challenges not found on the main path. It just feels disappointing running around killing the same enemies over and over, trying to see all the game has to offer, rarely being delighted by welcome surprises. Finding a rancor for the first time was truly a holy shit moment until he fucking swallowed me whole repeatedly. Must have picked up that technique from Turgle over here. Bro got that Gawk 9000 meat demolished, which generally made fighting them a bit of a chore, especially on higher difficulty, as all attacks already almost insta-killed, but having him just grab you and eat you like a Snickers bar feels cheap. And then they give the same ability to my boy Spawn of Octo Bocto. Like, did I laugh and get super hyped seeing him? Absolutely. And I think it was sort of clever, turning his biggest weakness in the last game into his insta-kill in this game. Yeah, until I thought it was fucking stupid. And falling over him sticking out his tongue, being a silly little goober, gave you the chance to freeze him and cut it off, leading to massive damage and limiting his moveset severely. In Survivor, him Frenching you requires you to dodge it, and if you don't, then you better enjoy being pulled into the newest Vor NSFW Tumblr post. I just found that doing the side content waters down the experience, which should not be the case. The idea is to enrich the game and reward those that want to see more. I genuinely think you would have a better time just focusing on the golden path until you earn all abilities, which enhances the moment-to-moment gameplay tremendous, and then doing the optional content feels like less of a chore, as you have more cool toys to play around and cool with. Because making these little guys float around, smack them into each other like little toys is quite fun, but you do not unlock these abilities until like halfway through the game. Also, alright, let's talk about the combat. Man, I don't know. Alright, when the game works, it's great. But it makes between the frame rates fluctuating dramatically like a little squeaker's voice in the call lobby, and the enemies having way too many unblockable attacks, ganging up on you like they are trying to turn you into the next AAA gangbang product, make a lot of fights, well, less than ideal. Look, I know it was my choice to play on hard difficulty, and I appreciate enemy behavior changing depending on your chosen difficulty set. Hell, I think that's a great way to scale difficulty. But we've now had games that let you scale the difficulty to your own liking, switching enemy aggressiveness, damage taken, damage done, AI IQ, and as an aggressive and smart enemy AI enjoyer that dislikes things one-shotting you. Games that don't let you scale these things and resort to enemies having a health bar the size of Alabama and keep just as tight to your cheeks as the families do there. It can lead to shit like this. Not to judge anyone's family relations, but I prefer some space for Isa al-Masih.
Well, I completely understand that for the game to be balanced, I can't just
Got any and everything like butter. I do think it's comic when he strikes some enemy's tank like they're made of some Bhaskar armor or some shit. Of course, the game is rated 13 and up, so having a detailed dismember system like Doom may be a little excessive. But I do wish, you know, I could actually sever limbs during combat, not just with the last blow. Yeah, I know some droid enemies do fall apart during combat, like the first car of yours, but I think there's a lot of room to work on to make it not feel like I'm using a lightsaber to try and fight off home invaders with a glowing baseball bat. I imagine Disney may not be a fan of me being able to cut off a stormtrooper's arm and him having to continue fight, losing limb after limb, but like, have you seen episode 3? Wouldn't it be fucking awesome? So the story wraps up with us adopting Bolt's daughter, who just sort of seems cool with us killing her dad and claiming her as our own. Yeah, he was willing to sacrifice literally everything for one person's safety, but like, girl, you are that one person. And now that we have found a safe haven, which was sort of the whole point of the game since minute 1, it just ends. We don't see them move anyone or anything there. Hell, there's no reason to even be on this planet once you beat the story. There's nothing here and nothing will be there. So the story ends as wide open as my desire for more linear content. Let's talk about the lightsaber stances. In theory, fucking brilliant. Giving you 4 different movesets to play around with is really fun, and they do have some unique features that make it fun to play around with. But in reality, you'll probably try each one as you get them and then stick to 1 or 2 at most. As that is what you can keep on you at all times without switching them out while meditating. They made it so you could have all 4 stances unlocked at all times through, I don't fucking know, a weapon wheel or something? Why do we pretend like games haven't been around for decades and solved every issue ever? Let me switch my stances on the fly, give each transition some nice animations and combos, and boom, I'll have so much more fun messing around with the combat and actually try each stance out. As things stand right now, I only used the single blade until I got the double blade 5 minutes into actual gameplay. After that, I default to the split lightsabers. Once I got my gun, I went full hunter and blasted anything that moved at me like I was about to fist them. Yeah, playing with the crossguard is fun and I enjoyed using it in the end game, but realistically you won't have enough skill points to upgrade each stance fully until the end game, and you can only reset your skill tree once free of charge. Hell, I'm not losing points just trying to change my stance. Why even charge for a skill reset anyway? In RE4 Remake, for example, you can buy and sell weapons and get most of your money back because they want to encourage you to try everything out. Punishing you for trying different systems just feels really odd and counterproductive. Look, I enjoyed the game. Alright, I definitely would not have platinum did in such a short time if I did. I almost finished it twice too, even though there was no incentive to do so other than me wanting to give it a more of a fast shot. But unlike others who seem to be the majority online, I just can't say I'm blown away by the game. Yeah, when the game focuses on set pieces and sets character moments into focus, things get really exciting and fun. But sadly, it takes a while for the game to do those things, and a weak opening to the game is possibly the most damaging to my overall enjoyment. I'll take a middle or a weak ending over a bad opening, personally. I just don't think that making worlds wider makes them more fun. Quite the contrary, actually. While games like Elden Ring and Tears of the Kingdom show that open worlds can enhance experiences, the majority of open worlds don't really work out very well, considering they've been the standard for like 15 years now. I've opened far too many chests in games to be excited about it. Dungeon-esque areas, which the game has a couple of, have to be more frequent to really make an impact. Because I really did enjoy exploring caves and enemy bases that were completely optional, but they are just too few and far between. So as weird as this may sound to literally everyone, because the common stance is this is just Jedi Fallen Order but like way better, I enjoyed the first game more. By a bit, alright? Does Survivor have stronger set pieces and some amazing memorable moments? Absolutely. Did I feel like a big chunk of the experience felt repetitive and inspired? Sadly, that too. I'm still really excited for any future projects Respawn is working on, and I can't wait to play possibly the end of the trilogy whenever they are ready. But I sure hope they focus on things that, and for the love of God, please have the game run at a stable frame rate on release. Please.